Like, how often do you turn your computer off?
Hardly ever. Welcome to The Last Sip, episode 4. I'm Hiiro.
And I'm Rachel. And that's where the frustration begins. Really is like Rachel, Hiiro. Rachel is the more tech savvy one. Hiiro is completely clueless.
I'm completely clueless. I'm just the face.
He's
I'm the media and outreach coordinator, and Rachel is everything else. I feel like it's like the catering show with Kate McCartney and Kate McLennan. It's like, I'm Kate McCartney, and I'm Kate McLennan. I spend my life not being an asshole, and I'm a food intolerant. Welcome to the catering show!
Okay. Yeah, I guess we're starting. Okay. How are you? Aside from the construction going on outside your place that's been going on for God knows how long.
Build a park. Apparently the first urban park in the last 10 years of the downtown Vancouver green space, accordingly.
How long? People, it's a park. I mean, I get you want to have like these fancy little, benches and all that shit, but
and water features and an overcross pedestrian pass and bullshit. Yeah. It's a whole scene.
Plant some grass.
It's like a fucking drag show is waiting to happen. It's just so extra.
Are they right? Are they building a catwalk? Like, what are they doing?
Basically, they are, because it's an overpass. That's like a zigzag. Like, you could do a fashion show on there and have spectators on the ground of the mezzanine. Like, it's turning into a whole production.
Okay, I didn't realize that was a whole overpass deal and all that kind of stuff. But anyway,
you'll see it. You'll see it next time you come down to Vancouver.
I will. That kind of brings us to, like, in a funny way, a segue into, beautifying something or making things look sexy that maybe aren't really initially, like nature. I mean, nature's sexy in its own way. What the hell am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is, you've got something that's like natural.
Yes.
Nature, whatever it may be. And then you're beautifying it because it's in a metropolis, it's in a city, and you need it to be funky and cool, and you need it to look a certain way. Mm-hmm. And the reason why this is a segue, people are like, what the fuck are you talking about, Rachel? Because speaking of our natural inner beauty of the mind and how we perceive or how we portray ourselves, how we feel like we need to market ourselves on social media to sell something like mindfulness, which is in its own right something that is like how do you sell that? Well, you sell it with sex, apparently. Still, I even said to Adriano the other day, I was like, you know what? Even though we're living in this world where people are trying to make it seem like it's okay to not wear the makeup or to be natural, to not get, work done or whatever it is specifically for women. But yet, and we've kind of touched on this before, but yet what we're seeing on social media and news and all that kind of stuff is that's not the case. Still, sex sells. Sex, I feel like sex probably will always sell.
Yep.
To a certain extent. But
yep.
I don't know if you want to weigh in on that, but really what peeves me is the fact that we're still using it to sell things like mindfulness, like meditation, like, being more confident on the inside and all those kinds of things.
Being holistic.
Right.
Holistic.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Sure. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So that was kind of one of the topics for today's conversation is about that. And I just get so frustrated because, you can go down a rabbit hole so quickly on social media thinking that I'm not pretty enough. I'm not shiny enough. I'm not airbrushed enough. I'm not tweaking my photos enough or cropping things out or putting a filter on or like, and you're seeing, unfortunately, the ones that do that are the ones that are quite successful. So
I know it's a whole thing about quality over quantity, in my opinion, when it comes to building a brand and building a following, and realizing there's no, I don't want to say there's a wrong way to do it. I think there are ways to do it more ethically, to do it more without selling yourself out, perhaps. I think so.
Those are the words. Like when have you started to sell yourself out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, even though, again, it's not just about yoga. I mean,
No.
there's all this pressure for teachers to teach vinyasa yoga or athletic, physical, fitness-oriented yoga without any spirituality and without much breath awareness. And that's what sells, It's people not tuning into their body and not tuning into their mind. They're just following a rhythm of instruction.
Yeah.
Right. And then you sell yourself out because it's where you get people coming in, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're fulfilling yourself. You're just doing what people want you to do. It's the same thing with selling yourself for sex, or selling sex as a product, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Selling sex as a product, when the product you're trying to sell isn't sex, you're trying to sell a meaning that's behind it.
Yeah. And you just made me think of something. Like there's a real fine line, just bringing it back to women and specifically, but there's a fine line between a woman wanting to be sexy and look sexy, and that's awesome. Like,
yeah, that's healthy.
Like, if that's completely, but there's a fine line between really going almost off the edge and really being sexy, and then not knowing how to respond to the negative, maybe that we're putting there. And it's I understand that we want to take hold of the sexiness and be like, okay, but I should be allowed to be as sexy as I want without the repercussions.
Yes.
Without the negative response. And I do agree with that to a certain extent, but where's that line where now you're kind of making other women maybe feel less than too?
Right.
Like, ability. I don't know. Because that's kind of a thing that's happening right now, even in stuff like that too.
It definitely comes up again across cisgendered women, or not even cisgendered women, but women, people who identify as female, particularly that might have more, just people that identify as women, whatever association they do. It's something that's just very, I think it just comes back to the root of societal pressure.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like communal pressure, what is going to provide the result that they're looking for. And to know that sex or beauty, the allure, the illusion, right? This whole idea of a fantasy you want to sell, a story you want to create for someone to think about, is something that can also generate into you getting what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I'm starting to think about the times that, I felt really good about myself and I would dress a certain way and, maybe get certain attention, but also feel, this is interesting, also feel guilty because, I've always been thin, and that's just my genetics. And, I, for some reason, like when I, dress a certain way where things are hugging my body and I see other women maybe looking, I almost feel guilty because I'm like, I don't want you to feel bad. Yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. It's a sense of modesty.
Yeah. So
sense of modesty. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that also comes with a splash of not being totally confident or comfortable or in my own body.
Perhaps it could be that. I mean, there's lots of different ways you can spin this, and there's no necessarily way that is more effective or efficient or justified. They're just different perspectives on the same situation, right?
So interesting, but yeah. It's been that's been a hot topic for a very long time, I think, but more specifically now, even you're hearing with lyrics and songs, like, how for the longest time it was like, those that identify with being like a cis male particularly very crass lyrics, talking about women in certain ways, like talking about sex, like in certain ways that's really, really lewd and crude.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like extremely unladylike for a woman to do that. And she would
I know.
be criticized, you know, up the yin yang. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, now that's starting to be, you know, viewed as being okay for a woman to sing or to speak her mind about that, which,
yeah.
So, I mean, I agree with that. There's just such a fine line. I don't know.
Well, yeah, you're right. It's definitely a fine line. And I think, I mean, even not exactly the same thing, but I asked Sydney when we were out for dinner the other night and we were on Davie Street, and you know, more queer people are on Davie Street, more gay couples are expressing their love, more openly holding hands or so forth. And so I kind of just asked him, like, do you notice if people check me out? Because I'm not usually aware of it. And he said, Hiiro, so many people check you out all the time. And so I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. He says, yeah, what do they usually check out? They check out your ass. You got a really hot ass. You got a really nice ass. I'm like, okay, great. Well, I do. Thanks, Mom and Dad. But I said, now, do you notice it's mainly other men, queer men, or do you find that it's women? And he said, the times that I've paid attention or noticed it, it's primarily been women.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I've got to really take a look at your ass the next time I see you.
You totally need to take a look at it.
Yeah, analyze your ass.
You got to analyze my ass. You got to do your ass analytics.
Got to do some analytics.
Analytics or asanalytics. You got to do some asana.
That's very interesting. Huh.
Yeah. It is interesting for sure. Because when I think about women, I'm thinking like, I can look at a girl and be like, damn, she's fine.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Yes. As a stereotypical gay man would, but I don't look at a woman and think, damn, I want to pound her, or damn, I want that to be my sugar mama, or like I don't think in any way like that about females. But then I look at a man, I'm like, daddy. Mm-hmm. Right? It's just the way our psychology is wired.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, you have a really good fashion sense though too. And you have now we're just going to, you know, give each other compliments, but you have such a lovely punam of beautiful face.
Aww.
So I'm surprised if they were also looking at your face, but I think women, again, this is a huge generalization. I'm sorry for everybody out there, but I feel like a lot of women are more discreet about how they check out other people. Yeah. So again, that's a huge sweeping generalization. I realize that. But you know, it's not typically those that identify as a woman or a female that are like catcalling street. It's usually like the construction guys.
Yeah, it is. But you know what though? I don't know if you've had this happen to you. And I'm guessing now I'm going to put my foot in my mouth. I'm sorry. I'm assuming women experience this much more than men, but who am I to say from my very sheltered, narrow perspective? But I've actually had my ass groped in public by women.
What?
Mm-hmm. Twice specifically that I can recall.
May I ask what the age was maybe of these women?
Well, first of all, what my age was. The first time I remember I was under the age of 10. I was like 9 or 10 maybe. Yeah. And in English Bay, when it was appropriate and socially responsible to go watch the fireworks, the Festival of Light, I remember walking back along the seawall on English Bay with my cousin, who was the same age as me at the time, my aunt and uncle. And I remember as we were walking by, going back, and there were swarms of people that a female who was probably a teenager at that time, probably a teenager or a young 20-year-old, grabbed my ass.
Ew.
It was really, really bizarre. And I was in such a passing moment of so many people. I could tell that it was intentional, but I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then the second time was more recently, and maybe in the last 2 to 3 years, when I was coming up the giant escalator at Granville SkyTrain station, because it's like a 50-step escalator. You look up and you're like in the Twilight Zone. And I remember, and these were 2 drunk girls, okay? They were drunk. It was a Saturday night. I was coming back from teaching in Burnaby. And I recall actually being right there on the step, and these two girls behind me literally groping my ass, like actually fully cupping and squeezing and groping my ass, and they were laughing, and I turned around and I scolded them. I scolded them so heavily, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and I said, "You're not fucking sorry. I don't care about gender or sexuality or anything like that represents. You have no right to infringe on one's physical privacy, especially someone's from behind."
Absolutely.
And I said, what if I reacted in a way where I might have pushed you off the escalator by accident? And even if it wasn't the intention, my reflexes took over out of protection. Then what would you have done? And they were so drunk. They're like, I'm like, okay, I'm not wasting my breath anymore. I'm getting out of here.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Okay. I stand somewhat corrected. But
yeah. From those two experiences, for sure. Yeah.
Holy Toledo. Like, okay, now you're making me think about other experience. Well, I don't know. Like, well, maybe do you think a woman or a young whomever might just think, oh, because I'm a woman, well, maybe they weren't even thinking because they're drunk, but that it's more okay because they should know, oh, I don't really mean much by it or anything by it because I'm not a predator, kind of that like stereotypical predator male type thing. I don't know. That's
for me. I look at it just as a tit for tat, like a prank. Like it's a sense of humor. It's a sense of exploitation.
Yeah.
All the time men are doing this to us, so we're gonna do it to, every once in a while we're gonna do it to some other person. And I don't know if that's what they're thinking, but from the person that's on the receiving end of that action, understandably, you wonder, okay, I wonder if there's any reverse psychology to that.
Yeah. And you just brought up a couple memories for me.
Oh, okay.
Also with women, 2 separate times with women around my age. So let's just say in their early 30s at the time. Okay. Both of them, I barely know. One of them, this happened probably, I want to say like 5 years ago. And I was at the apartment of a friend, so someone I did know, and she had a friend over that was also in our little gathering. And we had a couple of drinks, but it wasn't like anything crazy.
Yeah.
For leaving her apartment to go to a restaurant or to I don't know where we were going, to a bar or something like that. Her friend, whom I just met that night, and I knew she was a bit kooky and, she seemed pretty fun. And I was like, okay, cool. This, she's kind of out there and she's, she looked at me in the hallway and we were giggling or laughing about something. So I connected with her quite quickly, but I tend to do that with most people.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I don't even know. It doesn't matter what I was wearing. I don't remember what I was wearing, but she took her hand and she grabbed my freaking front.
What?
Yeah. And it was like a really quick kind of like, and then she did it and it's almost like she retracted her hand and she kind of like nervously laughed. And I was like, what just happened? Like it happened so quickly that, and it's one of those moments where you're like, did that really happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then, and it happened so fast, you kind of rewind. You're like, no, it did happen. It wasn't an accident.
No.
Very intentional. And, I had a couple drinks, right? So I was like the slightest bit fuzzy and it was, I don't even know if she said sorry. Like it was just a very strange, almost impulsive thing. That was odd. And the night I felt very uncomfortable and it was very strange. But to be honest, at that time, I probably just kept drinking and then just numbed it. What we tend to do.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that. I never saw her again. And then the second time was only maybe 2 years ago, 2 New Year's. This is also very, very strange. It was like almost identical situation. What am I putting out there, people? Like, I basically like, look, I'm wearing overalls. I don't know. Maybe I was wearing some tight pants. It doesn't matter.
No.
And again, I know people can, perceive me as being, like kind of laid back and open and, still, I'm making excuses for them. That's terrible.
Well, we're compassionate people by nature. It's easy to have an understanding of whatever the situation. Think, okay, here are all the scenarios, the variables for these individuals' actions, and we just happen to be the person that they projected them onto. No, not at all.
And so it was another kind of like little house party. And yeah, there was booze involved, but still, even when I've been at my drunkest, like I still know, I mean, I don't know. And again, it was amongst a bunch of people, and I don't really know exactly how it happened, but another woman that I barely know, she's probably 30-ish, 32.
Mm-hmm.
She's very, very like hyperactive. And she looked at me. And again, it was one of those, again, I don't know what we were doing, but she again took her hand and there was a whole bunch of, it's not like we were, anyway.
Wow. Fascinating, hey?
That time I was pissed because I realized that what had really happened. And I was just like, this is not okay. And I said to Adrienne, I'm like, we're leaving right now.
Yeah.
Cool. And I have not seen her or spoke to her since. So
yeah, well, there you go, right? I guess that kind of leads into something you did want to talk about in terms of invasion of your privacy, eh?
And well, what I want to talk about, which is more how we perceive people, really. I mean, I don't know if it really ties in, but I mean, everything kind of ties in, I guess, in reality. You can always find a way to tie it in. But just having to do with how on edge we all are and all have been in the past year or so, and just what we're seeing in the media, and just also, this was just after where I grew up in Lynn Valley in North Van. There was, I don't know if you want to call it a mass stabbing, but there was something that happened that was very uncharacteristic of this small little city I grew up in. So I'm just kind of saying that before I tell my story. So about 2 weeks ago, I guess now, I was out at the front of our property. We have a house, and I was doing some weeding. So I was in my property. There's a good like 10 feet between where I was and even my fence at the front where the sidewalk is. There's even a fence there, right? Short fence. Weeding. My back was against the sidewalk. Out of like the blue, literally, I hear this, hey, right, like literally a couple inches from my head. And so it scared the crap out of me. So the first reaction was like, am I expecting somebody? No, I'm not expecting anybody. And the first thing I thought was, it's got to be a friend or somebody. I turn around and there's a gentleman with his pants partly open, like he was trying to get his pants on, wearing flip-flops, very dirty feet, very disheveled hair, full beard, swaying. The first thing, and this is our perceptions, and the first thing that I thought of was I wanted to protect myself, and I was scared because I didn't recognize him, and I said, "Get off my property! Like, what are you doing?" So I yelled at him. It was a very instant reaction, and then he's like, "What are you talking about?" Like, and I said, "You're not listening to me. Like, get off my property." And so he kind of took a couple of steps back, and he was completely out of it. So my first reaction is, okay, this is somebody maybe living on the streets, and who knows what he's capable of, because I wasn't sure where his head was at, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, but again, with all the things that just randomly happened in my old neighborhood with a random stabbing and those kinds of things, where right now people's heads are just not, more than ever, just not quite there in reality, I was scared, right? So I said it like 2 or 3 times, get off my property, get off my property. Then I swore, like, get the fuck off my property. And so he finally kind of stumbled backwards, again, fiddling with his pants, right? Went to the sidewalk. And then he said, oh my God, as he's swaying, I thought this was Scott and Kathy's house. And I just said their names. Whoops. Those are my neighbors. Sorry, I mean, that's not their names. I might have to bleep that out. But he said I can't believe I just said that. He said my neighbors' names. And he said, I thought that this was their house. And when he said their names, I thought, okay, he knows people in the area. This is interesting. So he must have a relation or something like that. So I kind of said, no, it's not. And then I kind of watched him stumble across the street. I was worried he was going to get hit by a car. He didn't. And then he started talking to another neighbor across the street. So I ran into the house and I said, Adriano, like somebody just, and also we've had something taken from our property before. Because we live anytime you live closer to the downtown, which is what we do, that's a possibility. So I said, hey, I told him the story, and then I went back out and I saw my neighbor who just came home, whom he named. And I said to my neighbor, do you know that gentleman across the street? Like, he just was on my property and he scared the crap out of me. And, I was kind of worried for my safety.
Yeah.
And he said, and this is kind of the moral of the story, I guess, really. He said, yes, that is so-and-so. He lives across the street. I didn't recognize him. I know some of my neighbors, not all of them. He lives across the street and he has an inoperable brain tumor, and he's on very, very extreme medication. And maybe he just started new medication. Who knows? And my heart was just my heart sank, and I felt horrible that I treated this human being like that, but it was a very strange situation. So, anyway, that was kind of a long story, but the next day I ended up seeing him again. I don't know. I didn't actually do a follow-up to this story because I put it on my Instagram. I saw the neighbor again, and he did seem a little bit more level-headed, but he didn't remember pretty much anything that happened before.
Yeah.
Still looked quite disheveled. And he just said, I'm so sorry. Like, I heard, so-and-so told me that I was here, and I don't really remember. And I don't remember even talking to the other neighbor. And then my neighbor, whom he knows, was there as well. And he goes, yeah, you were here yesterday, and he's never seen you like that before. And then, the neighbor said to me, look, if you ever see, and I'm like, thank you. So I'm glad that I know this about you now, because we can keep an eye out for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You can.
It's, but one of those things, like instant reaction, how we perceive people, how we stereotypically, when you see somebody, what that person might mean as to how society has, made them look to be. And yeah, it was, that sat with me for quite a few days, actually.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's a very, very profound way of perceiving and reacting, really.
Yeah, I mean, and the other, and then just learning that he has 2 little girls, and it's heartbreaking. But
yeah, of course.
I don't know. I mean, and you live right downtown Vancouver. So actually, this is kind of funny. So when the neighbor whom was disheveled and was on my property, the next day when he was a little bit more level-headed, the first thing he said to me was, "You're from Vancouver, aren't you?" And it was a kind of a joke, because it was like, well, no wonder, like, you're from a bigger city and your reactions to things like that might be, because that's what you were used to seeing much more of that, right?
True.
So
it's true.
Yeah,
it's true for sure. I mean, even living in downtown Vancouver, and not right beside the downtown east side, but certainly near it and working in it a lot in the last several years, it's definitely interesting seeing a lot of the same community. It's a community. It's a village of people that are really, you see the regular folks that are doing what they feel they need to do to survive, and you see them, and I always wonder, I'm like, wow, okay, it's been 10 years since I've seen you. You're still here. Like, you're still going. You're still doing your thing. You're still living on the street. You're still, and that's their lifestyle, and that's what they know, and it's fascinating, and in some ways, kind of, it's really, the first word that comes to mind, that's touching, I guess. Like, I mean, in the sense that, not the fact that regardless of how they ended up where they are. The fact that they have sustained their life, and that I can remember these people that I interacted with when I was 16, and now I'm 29, and I see these same people.
Wow.
Yeah, that's more what I'm referring to. It's really, really, these are I mean, they're real people, and they're doing what they know. But that doesn't mean that we as humans are able to just let them come in on our own personal space or things like that as well. We still have the ability to kind of keep our personal safety in check.
I also just think that with COVID and stuff, it's just made a lot of us more, like I said, prior to telling a story, more on edge. And just, there's just an underlying sense of fear and protection.
Yeah, there is.
You know, I just, that was like a real realization that, you know, maybe prior to COVID and prior to, you know, hearing what's been going on in the world and all the riots in the States and like just all kinds of stuff that's been happening, maybe I would have reacted differently. Maybe I would have been a bit more compassionate and, you know, taken a moment to assess the situation or the scenario a bit differently. But, you know, we're all, it's just living in such a fight or flight. Yeah.
We are completely. And this is not relating to this, but in terms of fight or flight, in terms of assuming or things like that, I mean, I just got to say, like, what is up with Vancouver right now and all the people swarming on the beaches again? You think you would learn your lesson? No, you're not learning your fucking lesson. The photos and videos I'm seeing of people at Kits Beach is so blood boiling. It's such a deep feeling of shame and like embarrassment to see, even if the communication from the health authority is unclear and it's people are tired of being misled and people are starting to get on the, you know, anti-lockdown thing. We're going to end up in another freaking lockdown if people don't freaking get their act together, whether or not.
And we're not even being in British Columbia and Canada, we're probably one of the few places that really has not had a real lockdown.
No.
We've actually been quite lucky. And so just to abuse the freedoms that we do have is disgusting. It's awful. And it's prolonging everything. And I feel for, you know, the people that are doing their part and wearing the mask and doing all those kinds of things they're the ones that are super frustrated now.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I mean, it is so strange. I mean, I know now we're talking about pandemic and getting into a real hot topic right now, but I was looking, I don't usually listen to what Justin Trudeau says. I don't really listen to his speeches and those kinds of things, addresses to Canada. I mean, I get some of the news posts, but the whole vaccination thing, like our prime minister hasn't even had his vaccination yet. He just said something yesterday. He's like, I'm planning on getting the AstraZeneca vaccine. And I think that was like also maybe as like a ploy in a way to say it's safe, people, because, you know, people are scared about that one and they're scared about a couple of them. But I think maybe that was a newsworthy stuff he said, but it just made me, I was like, what? He hasn't had his vaccine yet? What the hell is going on in Canada?
Right? I've got friends that are in our age category that are already double vaccinated in the States, in California.
Oh, me too. I know.
Like, it's obscene. And you know what? At least the States is finally getting some treatment that they deserve based on having such a horrible government. So thank God they've got some kind of support now, and they have way more people than Canada does. So I'm not mad at it. But the fact that it's not equally represented and supported for our part of North America is absolutely absurd, especially as I've talked about at length, how my industry is absolutely fucked and my professional development is completely on hold in the way I wanted to be. And even if it might be a small, insignificant matter to me in my scope of what's important, it ain't not significant. It's not whatsoever. So when I see people on the beach like that, I honestly want to scream. I would never use a weapon, but if it took a gunshot to the sky to not harm anybody, but for people to scram and realize this is actually an emergency, I don't care. Do something about it.
Ooh, Yeah, that's see, and that goes back to my point of everyone's on edge in a certain way, and we don't know how we're going to react. We would pray that it would not be with violence, but the people that, you know, can't get the maybe mental care that they should be getting or deserve to get, like, it all comes back. Oh yeah, I know. Wasn't it somewhere? It was English Bay, I think. There were some pictures of there was some big dance party.
That was Kitts Beach.
Oh, Kitts! I thought
that was actually Kitts Beach.
Oh, okay.
There could have been one at English Bay too. The photos that were circulating and the videos that were circulating, like the general blogs, were of Kitts Beach.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I'm freaked out. I'm legitimately at a point where I'm freaked out now.
Like for what? For safety or for your job or for
my job security, my industry, some not all, but some social elements of life that provide stability or sense of closure or support. Being in different health regions, like all these things which we have to do, and I support it completely, but nonetheless, they affect so many elements of how we function in our life for the short period of time that this is going to continue to last. Like, I don't see us being really back to any sense of frequency of normalcy of even 70% at the very most until the end of this year, vaccinations or not. I don't see vaccinations being, oh, we're all vaccinated, that means everything is going to go back to some form of prior to this pandemic. Not at all. And people are such idiots that they're going to think that it is too.
But back to the vaccinations for a second. I mean, try to get that many people vaccinated. You can't force people to get vaccinated. So with that being said, like there's a massive part of the population that still will refuse to get vaccinated, are scared to get vaccinated, which I understand as well. Like I'm a little fearful. I've never been. I mean, I do get the flu vaccine once in a while, but I just feel like because you can't enforce something like that upon people, and I'm glad that you can't. Like that's a real and that's a super sticky point, right?
It's very
So with that being said, I mean, to get that herd immunity, it's gonna take a lot longer, I think, than people would hope.
Well, yeah, it will. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I'm not someone that just wants to stab a needle in my arm without knowledge and information. But at this rate, do it. I'm like at that point where moment that it hits 12 p.m. noon tomorrow, Thursday, I'm going on to the BC government website and I'm registering for my damn vaccination, even if it's my first dosage and it might take them 3 or 4 months. I'm putting my name into the lottery to get selected.
Is that interesting? You just said putting your name into the lottery.
Yeah, right. Because it's basically that.
What is going on, Canada?
I know.
But yeah, and I know I wasn't really allowed to, but I did anyway. I registered a couple weeks ago.
Oh, sweet. It let you?
Yeah, I was wondering. I was curious. I'm like, will it, stop me because you have to put in your date of birth, obviously.
Yeah.
No, I think the reason why they were saying that is because they didn't want to overload the system.
So if I went on now, it might actually let me.
It will let you. I know it will. So anyway, that aside, the way you put it about a lottery, I mean, in a sense, that's pretty much what's happening here, really. Like, I don't know where they are with the age right now. I mean, I know that as of tomorrow, almost anybody can register by the end of this week, I should say. By the end of the week, yeah.
It's my bracket tomorrow, and then it's anyone and everyone else on Friday.
Right. But that's registration. That doesn't mean when are you getting an appointment?
Nope. I have no idea. That's the thing.
And then I heard something I thought I heard something about this the past couple of days, that the US has an excess now of vaccinations.
Wow.
Perhaps, and probably not in every state, I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm totally wrong on that, but I heard something that's looking like that's what's happening.
Wow. Well, they've got to distribute that hopefully to Canada.
That was the other topic, is something about that. So
yeah.
there was a whole political thing about like they'd rather do that than obviously send them to, I don't know, Russia.
Somewhere else. Yeah, somewhere else. At least we're in the same continent.
Yeah, right.
We support each other. Canadians and Americans support each other every day on so many levels of economy. This is no different. Why would that be any different?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's probably as political as I can get.
Yeah, I know. I don't think either of us are very political. So,
No.
you know, I don't feel comfortable jumping into those types of conversations.
No.
For example, like what happened yesterday, which is,
Yeah. Yes.
But I don't feel like I have enough knowledge or education behind me to talk about.
Same. I don't either.
You know, yeah.
No.
So they're like,
no.
Yesterday.
Right. Well, no, it's true though. And being in a relationship with, you know, a partner that is of that demographic, of that, that community, right? It's very fascinating and empowering and eye-opening to be able to learn from someone that actually lives that every day and understands those, yeah, I guess the framework of that every day, for lack of better words, lack of better terminology. And yeah, it just reminds us as Caucasian individuals, even if we have what we have, me and you specifically, I guess, what we live with and what we struggle with, it doesn't compare to what our counterparts do.
No,
it doesn't. Not to minimize us, but it doesn't compare.
Well, it's interesting because so many people I was, you know, on social media yesterday were talking about how, you know, yes, justice was served and all that kind of stuff, which yes, it was. But those that are a part of the BIPOC community were just like, no, I mean, okay, a bit of justice maybe was served, but this is just the tip.
I know.
It's the beginning of you know, just this tiny slice. Of course, it's really important, and it's great that it happened.
Yes.
But those that are directly affected seem to be much more aware of the fact that it's really just a starting point.
It's just a starting point for everything that has happened from slavery, really.
Yeah, and I hope it really is a starting point, meaning that it's just gonna keep, you know, getting
maximizing and really capitalizing and getting people on the regardless of their agreement or disagreement or views, the fact that is something that's black and white. Mind the pun. I didn't mean it that way, but it is. It's black and white. There's no shades of gray in between. You don't kill people period. You don't kill people. Yeah.
No, you're right.
You just don't cause harm to other people physically, and ideally harm the people, period.
Well, and that's another end with now in British Columbia, and I don't know if it's all every province is doing things a bit differently, but now as of this Friday, with the restrictions for the pandemic about staying in your health authority and not traveling and really enforcing that.
Yeah.
Potentially, I don't know all the details, but potentially like roadblocks, those kinds of things in certain more major highways or areas of the cities where you would see people that would be traveling. And I know there's a big concern from people in the BIPOC community. I don't know if you heard people talk about this, but
no.
Just that hopefully people are going to be treated equally when stopped by police.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter your ethnicity or what you look like. It's but there is this underlying like PTSD, you know, understandably so going on in the BIPOC community, I think. Yeah. When it comes to these kinds of restrictions that, you know, so who freaking knows? This is all new territory.
Yeah. No, it is all new territory. We have no idea.
No, but it's so interesting. I don't know what's going to happen. I love that we were only going to talk for like 30 minutes, but
and it's been almost an hour. And I feel like we're not even done. We're not even close to being done.
We're not, but that's okay. We'll kind of wrap it up in a second here, people, because I know you can only hear so much of us. You can fast forward through certain points. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly.
Me offended, I won't even know. But yeah, I mean, like why I think the bigger concern I think maybe is the flights coming in and out of the city, or what am I saying? That doesn't make sense. Transborder? No, inter border between the provinces. Like people,
Yeah.
like people.
Yeah.
I live. It's so many Albertans come because it's very close. It's like half of
Yes.
Vancouver is what between
Yes.
three. So the Alberta license plates are like totally, they're just everywhere right now. Yeah. Okay, yes, there's a lot of people from Alberta that own property here and they're here, but I can guarantee there's tons of people. Like I can see their cars are packed up with things because they're on vacation.
Yeah.
Traveling. So I think that's more of a concern in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I don't know either. I even see, again, I just said I'll see license plates in Vancouver even from, I was kind of joking around. I said, like, I saw a license plate on a car that was from Langley. They probably live in Vancouver, but they might have bought it from a dealership in Langley. But if they have a Langley plate and that's part of the Fraser Valley Health and I'm in the Vancouver Coastal Health, like I just kind of joked around saying, imagine someone slashed that person's tire saying, go back to your health region. And it's like, I actually live in your fucking health region. It's just that my dealership was in Langley.
Again, back to perceptions, how we perceive things.
Yeah, I know.
Labels.
Mm-hmm.
Kinds of things. This is going to be the next time that you hear from us, these restrictions in our province, which are coming down to health region, not traveling outside of it.
Yep.
Be able to see how they're enforcing it and, you know, what's going to happen with this whole.
Yeah. Like technically where I teach is in Burnaby. That's a different health region. I'm actually supposed to not be permitted to go to Burnaby unless if I'm going to work.
Well, yeah, but you are. So.
Well, not anymore. But if I was, we're not planning to open up until, well, nowhere is permitted to operate indoor fitness classes of any intensity level, of any style class until like May 29th or whatever, or 26th, whatever the May long weekend is. And I guarantee you once it hits June, that's still going to be extended.
I feel like that's the case too. And super quick note on that. It's interesting because there's a studio up here that closed just the beginning of the pandemic and they're reopening. They're a hot yoga studio. And I just saw that they're opening up a brand new building that actually is here. And they've got a unit in the brand new building that they've got new signage and they're planning to open. It's the hot yoga studio. I'm like, what are you thinking?
What
are you thinking?
That makes zero sense. What the fuck?
No, but okay. I'm not saying. Of course, they're not exempt from this. They're not going to be opening up their.
No.
It's more from a business standpoint.
How are you affording this?
It must be getting free rent for a while. I mean, I have no idea. And they're
no kidding.
Very positive, future-oriented thinkers, which is okay, great. But I'm not. I'm too risk adverse to even consider doing something like that.
But also the fact that you know this picture all too well. So even more so, you know from experience.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, but you think that they would too because they've owned a studio before, for a successful studio, quite a successful studio up here. But anyway.
Yes.
Interesting. I was driving by and I probably looked away from where I was driving for way too long. I was like driving my car and then my vision just went, like, what?
Oh my god, that was a great expression.
What? On that note.
Oh, you froze. Oh, there you go. Oh, no, you didn't. You know what? We could easily open a hot yoga studio and we could call it Schwitz.
Schwitzing. No, get schwitzy.
Get schwitzy. Oh my god, could you imagine?
Get schwitzy.
Open it right beside the local synagogue. Go to shul, get schwitzy.
Okay, we promise our next episode won't be as serious. I think we should be more silly.
I agree.
But with that being said, this is probably going to come out after this happens, but we are going to be going live with Chef Nick this Thursday.
Yes, we are.
This definitely will come out probably after that, but it'll be on Instagram forever and ever, whatever this live is going to be with Chef Nick Peters Bond. So I'm super excited.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I love how I'm like, so are we doing like an Instagram room and you're saying, no, we're just going to tune in. I'm thinking, so wait, you're going to tune in, then I'm going to tune, like, how is this happening?
See, and this is where never mind. The tech being Hiiro and I. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. And I know there's a few people that have been asking for a part 2 of Chef Christina. Believe me, we've tried. We'll see. We will see. We hope that will happen, because that was a fairly popular discussion and it was very fun. So
it was indeed. So we'll talk to you very soon.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.